Hey everybody, Joel Penton here. Welcome back to the Vision Cast, where we talk about the LifeWise big picture and tell some LifeWise stories. We are wrapping up our core values, origin stories. I've been all the way through the 4 parts of committed, which were vision-centric, servant-minded, growth-oriented, hard-working. Told you how all those kind of originated, why they made it on the page. And now we're working through competent. We've been through strategic, innovative, problem-solving, and the final one, you may have been able to guess it, is something we love to talk about around here. You might say we're obsessed with it, and it is excellent. Part of being competent is being excellent. Here's what we wrote down. Here's kind of how we define it. Being attentive to every detail, we will maintain the highest standard of excellence in all that we do. This, as I've said, is so important to us. This is kind of a big category. Everything else kind of builds into this, that we want to be excellent. We want to represent the King of the universe well. And as I started thinking about why is this so important to us, what's the origin of this, I do think it predates even the start of LifeWise, even the start of the ministry that kind of gave birth to LifeWise Stand for Truth. It really starts, I think for me at least, in growing up. I am part of a wonderful family. I have wonderful parents. And I realize now, thinking back, that my parents, one of the things they did, they simply held very high standards for their children. It wasn't something, my sisters and I, that we felt like we needed to perform to have our parents' love or something, or to be a member of the family. But actually kind of the inverse of that, there was this understanding that because we were Pentons, because we were part of this family, that it was expected that we would do things, that we would try hard, and that we would do things with excellence. I remember even in school, I don't even remember being said, but there was just this expectation that, yes, if your last name is Penton, then you need to get straight A's. You need to do what it takes, and you need to, because that's part of your identity. And I thought about that and how that is really in many ways a picture of what it's like being a child of God, in that we are children of the King. We serve him, and we try to serve him with excellence. And we don't serve him so that we will be his children. We don't serve him so that he will love us. No, in fact, it's the other way around. We serve the King and we represent the King because he loves us, because we are his children, because that is our identity. It's who we are. And that certainly was baked into the ministry as we started with Stand for Truth and with LifeWise. And getting into ministry, it was just very natural to say, hey, let's try to pursue excellence. And so when I was traveling and speaking and we were doing events, we would look around at who are some of the best speakers out there, the best events, and how do they do it, and how can we really seek to achieve that level of excellence. And a big part of this is kind of the growth mentality, which is part of our committed core value. But after each and every event that we would do, I remember with Ryan, we'd be back in the car, we'd be driving on to the next thing, and we would kind of tear every event apart and debrief and say, okay, what went well, but how could we improve? How could we get better? How could we get better? That continues to this day. As we do anything with LifeWise, we want to do our best, but then immediately say, okay, great, but what could we have done better? How can we get better? How can we be even more excellent? And I realize that it can be, when you think about excellence, either a vicious cycle or it can be a virtuous cycle. If someone isn't pursuing excellence, they can say, oh, I'm just going to do it, whatever is good enough. I'm going to do whatever makes do. And then that standard can just be lowered and lowered. What's good enough can be even less and less and less over time until you're really spiraling down into mediocrity. Whereas excellence is the opposite, that you do your best, then you say, okay, how can we even do better? How can we do better and better and better? And it's a virtuous cycle. And so again, we don't do all that because it earns God's love. We don't do all of that so that we're God's children. No, we do it because of our identity as servants of the King. We already are his children. And so that's why we pursue excellence and have from day one. That's why it's part of our core values. I hope that's helpful to you. It's time to jump into a LifeWise story. And I'm excited because we are joined by a local LifeWise Leadership Board member, Christy from Tri-County North. Christy, are you there?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning, Christy. You just gave it away for all the listeners of this recorded thing that we are recording this in the morning, but that's that's quite all right. No, so appreciate you jumping on and appreciate you serving. If you're a board member, then it is very clear that you have signed up to sacrifice for the sake of the mission. For that, we're grateful. Maybe, Christy, could you tell us a little bit of your LifeWise story? How did you get connected?
Yes, my husband actually works at a local bank, and Tara Schwartz
That's right.
was actually in there doing some banking with him, and she had kind of was talking to him about LifeWise, and he said, "Oh my goodness, you need to talk to my wife because this is right up her alley." And from there, it kind of put a bug in my ear. I talked with her, and then eventually it got into the community, and we went to an information meeting, and we started up a steering committee, and then I said, this isn't enough. I've got to get into the board. So I applied to be on the board. And then of course, my whole thing, I'm like, oh, Lord, I want to teach this LifeWise program. I want to be a teacher. But, of course, I work full-time. I'm a nurse, and I work at the hospital Monday through Friday. And I kept praying, Lord, give me an opportunity to be able to teach these students. And that was my prayer the whole time, was just give me the opportunity. And so I was in an interview with one of the teachers for LifeWise that had applied. And in the middle of that interview, the Lord spoke to me, and he said, Christy, I have teachers already lined up for LifeWise, but what I need are teachers in the local church to teach these kids as they are ready to join a church that aren't churched. Once they come to know the Lord through LifeWise. And so it was funny because at my church, the children's ministry director had just stepped down. So I had kind of went in, I just signed up for that position because of LifeWise, because I know there's a need. He wants me to stay on the board and do that position, because every position that you do with LifeWise is important. But there's so much more to that story. I just wish I had time to tell the whole thing. I'd need about an hour.
Oh, well, I bet. Well, I love how that story started. It was classic LifeWise story. Is that in a bank, one person tells somebody else about the LifeWise. I mean, it's like, that's how this thing is growing. That's how this thing is spreading. And Tara Schwartz, who is an absolute machine, just spreading the story, telling bankers about LifeWise, and that's great. And then you raise your hand, and it's wonderful to see. I mean, LifeWise is just this tiny piece of this giant puzzle the Lord is doing, and how He's using His people like yourself. It's awesome. So I know you sent in a particular story about a family and getting connected to church and whatnot. Could you share that with us?
I can, because that kind of goes off to the story I was just talking about, because I kept praying, Lord, I want to teach this LifeWise program. And I kept waiting and praying for signs. And so I'm at a ball game, and my granddaughter cheers at it. And so they always save us a seat when we get there. And I go up there. There's 2 seats left for my husband and I, and we get seated there. And all of a sudden, the lady that I'm sitting by says, hey, aren't you with the LifeWise program? I said, I am. And she's like, oh, my goodness, my daughter just absolutely loves this program. She comes home talking about it all week long. We just talking back and forth, and the grandma chimes in, and she's like, I asked her what she's learned, and she's like, I learned that the Bible is the very breath of God. And, and I just thought, this is what, that's what it's all about. That's what we want these kids to know, that, the Bible is a living word, and it's God, and it's His breath. And then we're sitting there, and she goes on to say, hey, tell me, does that church there, does it have children's programs? And I thought, Lord, if this is not you speaking to me, telling me I need to take this position as the children's director, because, these ministries go on beyond LifeWise, LifeWise starts it, and then these kids need something beyond it, LifeWise is an hour or 45 minutes, a week. And so, our churches are also needed to be there to also help keep it going, And so God just spoke to me in so many ways during that. But what was even more great was that, they showed up for church that next Sunday, and they're still coming.
Wow.
And it's just the start of what God is doing in LifeWise and through LifeWise and for our churches even, building the kingdom. And LifeWise is just the start of it, and I just love it. So we're excited.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, LifeWise is just a bridge. I mean, we believe in being local church driven. We believe in the centrality of the local church. And yeah, I mean, it's just a bridge to get students and families connected. And to hear that, it's like the dream come true of hearing that story that you just shared, as somebody that's a little bit more behind the scenes. And we're doing everything we can here just to enable, empower, make the right, environment, I guess you could say, for that type of amazing organic ministry opportunity to make a place for that. And so I'm so encouraged to hear that. I also love that story of somebody, as you're considering leading a children's ministry, somebody saying, well, is there a children's program I can put my child in? It's just like the perfect prompt. Say, well, yeah, I should look into that, and it's, that's awesome. Well, Christy, again, thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for rolling up your sleeves. Thank you for sacrificing. And I think you're a great example to people across the country. And thanks for being on the Vision Cast.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right, you have a great day. And everybody else out there, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.